What is up, family? Welcome back to the Brandon Brews channel. I am Brandon, and I get this question a lot. I have gotten it maybe over the past 9 months a lot in the comments, and people always ask, is this a good company? Is this a good company? So I want to answer that question, how to actually pick a good company, a good trucking company. Let's talk about it. Alright, so I'm going to try to keep this video less than 12 minutes. Only because I did my pre-trip and I'm waiting for my pre-trip clock to come up to me. So I'm going to have to take off in a few. But let me see if I can break this down and give you guys some insight. And now a reefer wants to turn on. Hold on for a second. Alright. Like I always told you guys, this is a good tip for all my drivers who are still beginners and things like that. But this is a good tip. When you get to your truck and it's time for you to start your day, pre-trip that truck before you actually press the clock button. Because if there is something definitely wrong with your truck, if the truck don't start up and all of that, and you got to go get something fixed, or let's just say you're not going to work that day, you don't have to start your clock and waste time. So you'll be able to call maintenance. Now, at some point, you will have to get on duty because you're going to be doing things regarding the truck. But you are able to do that when you really need to, versus the truck won't start, something's broke, and you got to wait 2 hours for maintenance to get to you. Yeah. So pre-trip it first and then press the button. That's what I always do. That's what I was taught. All right, so let's get back into this video. I had to get back in my car because we're parked the truck is parked right next to a reefer. The reefer just cut on when I said I wanted to do this video. So, how to pick a good trucking company. This is very subjective on who you are as a person, because what is good? What is good? Is it because it's the money? And you'll quickly recognize it can't just be all the money. Like, you could be making buku money, but if you got a company who don't communicate effectively, who is very heavy-handed with their leading and leadership, micromanaging, like, you're gonna get frustrated and not care about the money. You're gonna be like, nah, I don't like this. So I'm saying this to say, you really have to find out what your needs are. When you find out what your needs are and what you need from a trucking company and what you don't need from a trucking company, that's exactly when you can say, all right, I think I'm going to make a good decision on making this my company to go with. So let's talk about the money. Everybody needs money. You need a good living wage, whatever that might be for you. Find it. But you have to put the other factors in. You cannot sit here and think a company is going to pay you buku money and you don't know how to manage your clock. They're not going to pay you buku money and you're late to every appointment, or you don't answer the phone when your fleet manager calls you. You don't know how to communicate. You late. You're always running your clock out, and you got so many stipulations. You don't want to drive during the day. You don't want to drive at night. You only want to drive this time and all that time. Those are all factors that play a big part of your money. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say right there. So make sure, if you're a beginner driver, I'm still in the beginning phase. I got a year and some change under my belt, but just know, like, your working ability. Know what your work ethic consists of, because you can see a number and they can tell you a number and you will be like, well, how do I get that number? Of course, all these trucking companies say the top drivers are getting it. Well, then you got to ask, what are the top drivers doing? You got some drivers that don't care about driving at night or during the day. You got some drivers who split their clocks and get up and keep driving. And when their 10 hours is over, they are back on the road driving, versus you taking 15 hours, 16 hours. And now I want to get up and I want to go. Like, I remember when I was over the road, I got to stuff 2 hours early. That was the norm for me. I never was just pulling up to be on time. I always was 2 hours early. And me being 2 hours early, they'll pull me in, take me to a door. I get out of there in the time I'm supposed to arrive, and I can go on to do something else. So that's what I started doing. So yeah, that's when I talk about the money, that's what you got to think about. One good tip that I would tell someone who's thinking about trucking, changing companies, how to pick a good company. I did this actually a couple nights ago. I don't know. This is what I be doing when I can't sleep. 3 a.m., I start Googling stupid stuff. I was looking up trucking company safety scores. I looked up my company. I looked up my previous company. I was looking at about 5 other different companies because I looked at their safety score. I looked at the crashes, the fatalities. I started looking at all that because, that really is a good benchmark to really look at when you're thinking about trucking companies. Because first of all, I wanted to see how many tractors do y'all have? How many drivers do y'all have? How much stuff is actually in service and out of service? How many times y'all been inspected? So that lets you know, does the company take care of the equipment? What do they think about safety? So I would say look at their safety scores. Not just the YouTube comments and YouTube content creators, because sometimes they don't tell the whole truth. They only telling you one side of the story. One side. Because a lot of these content creators still are employed with the company. So they can't be using these videos they can't say every little single thing in a video. And you'll notice that because there are some people, once they quit, they let everything out. They'll say everything. And then they'll tell you, well, I couldn't tell you that because I was still with them. So chew the meat, spit out the bone, if you know what that means. So that's what I would do. Also, if I'm looking for a good trucking company, I am going to think about location of the terminals versus where I live. So, because this is going to come into play when it's time for you to do your home time. When I went to the previous company that I was with, the terminal was 10-15 minutes away from my house. So when it came time for me to come home, I never had a problem. Also, I happen to live in the Midwest Indiana area. In that area, there's buku of freight running through here. So, and with them having a terminal, I always was able to get on a load to leave home or come back, relay or whatever. So I never had that problem because, I know there are some people who live 3 hours away from the terminal. So when they drop the truck off, maybe they don't park at home, but they have a 2-hour commute to get home. And so, if you're on a load or you need a load to get back home, you got to think about those things. Are you really going to have a load to get back home on that Friday when you need to? So I would say put that in place and just look at the list of terminals just to see what they got around the country, just to see. I kid you not, I say it's better to have terminals, at least if you're going to be regional, see if they got terminals in that region where you're going to be running, because it just makes things better. Because for me, the closest terminal for me is 2.5 hours away. So if that truck breaks down or they need to fix something on it, they're expecting one of us, me or my co-driver, to drive it down there in 2.5 hours. And I haven't had to do it yet. Well, no, I had to do it twice. Yeah, I seen a video. I got told twice. Yeah, I had to do it. So, and then I had to spend a night. So, yeah, that's what I mean. Back in the day, I had it made. I would drop that truck off at home, at the terminal. If something was wrong with it, we put it in the shop. I got in my car, went home, didn't think about it. And it was ready for Monday when I got it. That was love. So what we're talking about the money. We're talking about safety scores. Check that safety score out. And I say look at the location of those terminals. Check that out to see what that looks like. And lastly, it's really going to depend on you. What do you need to be successful out on this road? It's going to depend on you. It's really going to depend on what you need from a company. If you need to be a bit more handheld, if you need more instructional learning. Like you don't need just an email. You want somebody to call you, because all what I've noticed, companies do things very different. Like when I started driving for this particular company, the company that I am with now, they're not as hands-on as my first company was. My first company was a training company. So I found that out like in the first week. I'm like, oh, this is different, because they really held your hand. They held your hand enough, but when they figured out like, oh, you don't need us, they're like, okay, cool, you're on your own. But here, they're like, you're on your own. You know how to drive. You've been on the road, right? You're supposed to know all of that. They have the resources for you. Like if you need something, yeah, you can find it. They'll help you to figure it out. But it's not all in your face. Like when it came to their ELDs, they switched systems. They went from OmniTracks to Platform Science. In orientation, they trained you on both with a video. But when I got in the truck, it was OmniTracks. And then after a while, they switched it to Platform Science. So they expected me to know how to work the Platform Science, because they said, well, you did the training. So what I did, I just kept the literature with me. I had it in my bag and carried it with me every single day until they switched. And so, yeah, so keep that in mind. What are your needs? And I think that's what will make it a good company. What makes it a good company is what you put in and what you need. And because it's all about perspective. Like even my last company, a lot of people were still ask me, is it a good company? I really do believe they were a good company. Only thing I had an issue with was the money. So that's not everybody. There are some people there that say, oh, this is enough money for me. But they might not like the management. So it just depends on what you need. So like I said, I didn't want this video to be too long, but I really wanted to do it because I know for a fact I've gotten that question a lot, and I just wanted to give some insight on what you can do and what you can think about when it comes to finding a good trucking company that is for you. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Be blessed.